Hello there and welcome. You're watching BizFirst Review 360, where we bring you a roundup of this week's top stories and developments impacting the economy. This week, a revelation by the CID at the Bond Commission sent shockwaves through political ranks. According to the report, it has come to light that several UNP MPs in the 8th COPE had communicated with Arjun Aloysius during proceedings of inquiring into the bond scam. The second reading of Budget 2018 was passed in Parliament with a 2/3 majority, and China Merchant Port Holdings agreed to increase the first instalment payment for leasing the Hambantota port to 30% from 10%. Let's look at this week's top stories in detail.
Today, the witness was Sub-Inspector Yasanka Jasinghe, who is attached to the Technical Aid Unit of the Criminal Investigations Department. Now, he has a very good track record because he has supported the investigations involving Wele Sudha and Siya Sadewumi and so on. Now, today, he produced a forensic report on communication information analysis on the telephone numbers used by several persons of interest to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, and thereafter a supplementary report was presented. Now, this report contains information that Arjun Aloysius had communicated with certain individuals. Now, in that report for us, if I may show you, it says that Sujiva Senasinghe, when he was in COPE, had communication over the phone 62 times with Arjun Aloysius.
Was that all one ways, Zulfik? 62 calls between Sujiva Senasinghe from Sujiva to Arjun Aloysius, or was that a sum total of the calls between the two?
It's a total of the calls between the two for us. Now, the COPE Committee of the 8th Parliament, chaired by Sunil Handunethi, was appointed on the 6th of May 2016. Their report came out on the 28th of October 2016, so there's 5 months. Within those 5 months, Sujiva Senasinghe was appointed to replace another member who resigned. Now, he was appointed in July 2016.
Right.
So during that period, 62 calls were made between Sujiva Senasinghe and Arjun Aloysius. Now, it doesn't end there for us. It goes on to
other calls, isn't there?
Indeed, Harshana Rajakaruna had 23 calls with Arjun Aloysius. Hector Apuhami had 23 calls with Arjun Aloysius. Ajit P. Pereira had 2 calls with Arjun Aloysius. And finally, the current Minister of Sports, Dayasri Jayasekara, had 2 calls with Arjun Aloysius.
The Finance Ministry, releasing a statement, said individuals who have already opened letters of credit in their names to import vehicles prior to the 9th of November 2017 will be allowed to clear those vehicles at the rate of the duty that prevailed before the budget. These vehicles should be cleared before the 30th of April 2018. The communiqué further says that the tax concession announced in the Budget 2018 for imported brand new electric cars will be extended to cover the used electric cars which are not more than 1 year old. The duty of the used electric cars that are not more than 1 year old will be reduced by around 1 million rupees, and the duty rate applicable to electric vehicles less than 1 year old will be 12,500 rupees per kilowatt of power of the motor of the electric car, which is less than 100 kilowatt power. In addition, the loan to value or the LTV ratio for motor cars, which is 50:50 at present, will be further relaxed for hybrid vehicles. Loan-to-value ratio and finance facilities could be provided by banks up to 50% of the value for petrol and diesel motor cars, 70% of the value for hybrid cars, and 90% of the value for electric cars.
President Maithripala Sirisena opened the much-awaited ShangriLa Hotel Colombo at Golf Face on Thursday. The inauguration ceremony was seen as the Colombo's most highly anticipated hotel launch in 30 years.
A milestone for ShangriLa with the opening of our second hotel in this beautiful country. Combining modern luxury and legendary hospitality with authentic Sri Lankan charm, ShangriLa Hotel Colombo is a place where the city comes alive. And I hope it will become an iconic project in this vibrant capital city. ShangriLa is privileged to have been one of the first international hotel groups to invest in Sri Lanka's tourism and commercial sector. We share the government's vision of enhancing the value of Sri Lanka's natural, cultural, and human resource in order to create exceptional visitor experiences while uplifting the communities of the island. The government of Sri Lanka has made significant strides in developing tourism in recent years, with the vision of transforming the island to become one of Asia's foremost tourism destinations. There has been exponential growth in tourism since we broke ground for this hotel in 2012, with a record 2 million tourist arrivals at the end of 2016 and a target of 5 million set by the government for 2020. The government's focus on attracting foreign direct investment, creating high-quality and unique tourism services, and enhancing human resource capabilities will ensure Sri Lanka competes on the global stage. We, in turn, will do our best to provide the highest standard of hospitality and services to all our guests, create quality job opportunities for the community, and ultimately contribute to the sustainable growth of tourism in Sri Lanka. ShangriLa is not only bringing our renowned hospitality to Sri Lanka, we are also introducing an integrated lifestyle destination with the forthcoming One Golf Phase mixed development with residential, shopping mall, and office components opening to serve the community over the next 2 years. Many people have collaborated to reach this important milestone today. I would like to thank the Sri Lankan government for the support and confidence.
The ceremony signified rituals of the cultures of both China and Sri Lanka. ShangriLa Colombo marks the group's second foray into Sri Lanka, the first being ShangriLa Hambantota. ShangriLa Colombo adds 500 hotel rooms and 45 service apartments.
Cabinet spokesman said China Merchants Port Holdings has agreed to increase its first instalment payment for leasing Sri Lanka's southern Hambantota port to 30% from 10% of the $1.1 billion deal. The Chinese port operator has agreed to change the agreement it signed with Sri Lanka Ports Authority to develop Hambantota port, which was built and funded by China. Under the previous agreement, a first instalment of 10% was to be paid after 1 month from the effective date. According to the new agreement, this installment will now increase to 30%. Stay tuned to BizFirst Review 360. On the other side of the break, there is good news for women who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. EU grants 5.4 billion rupees to help alleviate poverty and empower women entrepreneurs in rural areas.
The European Union said they have launched one of the largest development programs aimed at reducing poverty in rural areas of the island. The 5.4 billion rupee grant will benefit rural communities in Monoragala, Badulla, Nuwara and Matale districts. The program is expected to be operational for 5 years and implemented by 5 partner organizations. The funds will go to improve water and sanitation, technical knowledge and empowering women.
Fitch ratings say Sri Lanka's beer industry will regain market share from hard liquor following a more favourable tax regime for the segment proposed in the government's budget for 2018.
With the latest tax revisions and barring further changes, Fitch expects beer's market share of total reported alcohol consumption in Sri Lanka to increase to around 24 to 25% in the medium term, posting an average volume growth of 22% over 2017 and 19. Fitch expects hard liquor sales volumes to contract 2% over this period, reversing some of the market share gains it made in the last few years. Fitch expects beer to regain market share lost to hard liquor during the last 2 years when frequent tax increases on beer eroded its price advantage. According to the Finance Ministry, during the first 8 months of 2017, revenue from excise duty on liquor and cigarettes has significantly decreased by 5.9% to 737 billion rupees and by 8.1% to 54.6 billion rupees due to the drop in the volume of sales.
EpiHack launched an app to help connect people in the fight against dengue.
EpiHack launched MOBAs, an app which aimed to build awareness on dengue and connect people in the fight against it. The app MOBAs caters to all age groups.
There was a gap existing between the government officials and other key players. So I think with this, with the help of the IT people, and we can see that from the with the commitment of the University of Colombo and also the Computer Society of Sri Lanka, and from the globe, a lot of experts are here. So I think it's fantastic. My million-dollar question is, okay, we have developed this. Now we have to put these pieces together. Number one, it's a gigantic task, right? We have it pieces, so it's great. Then number two, it's only the software, and we need the hardware to run it. So these are the two things. So where we have to find some bridge this communication gap between the key players, between the schools. We want schools to be notified. Okay, look, X college, you have 3-4 cases coming up from that particular case. Then we have to notify the principal, saying that look, there is a problem in your school. So look, please look around whether there are any breeding places, and also give enough information, and also to involve parents, because as I was telling the group one day, that we have the culture where we value education. So even with a child with fever, parents tend to give tablet of paracetamol or 2 tablets and send the child to school. Whereas to see that he or she, the reservoir of infection, can spread the disease to the other. And they come fairly early into school around 6 a.m., sometimes 5:30, 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. So that's, and also wait until late evening, 6:30, 7. So that's the time, that's the biting time of this particular mosquito. So this is where we have to focus. So we were doing fogging and all that, but I think this was the missing link.
Now let's take a look at some vital statistics.
The Ministry of Industry and Commerce says with the GSP Plus trade concession to the European Union, Sri Lankan apparel exports have increased by 11.3% to $1.6 billion during January to September this year. In 2016, Sri Lanka's apparel exports were $4.86 billion, claiming 43% of total Sri Lankan export basket of that year. The revenue generated from Ports and Airports Development Levy increased by 15.8% to 65.6 billion rupees during the first 8 months of 2017 in comparison to 56.7 billion rupees in the same period of the previous year. Government revenue increased by 15.7% to 1,172 billion rupees during the first 8 months to 2017 compared to the same period of 2016. Tax revenue increased by 17.5% to 1,095 billion rupees, whereas non-tax revenue contracted by 4.9% to 77.4 billion rupees during this reviewed period compared to the same period last year.
Stay connected with BizFast Review 360. When we come back, perspectives on 2018 budget proposals from lawmakers, economists and tax experts. Hello and welcome back to the show. Hot on the heels of the budget, audit firms hold post-budget forums to further explain the budget proposals to the corporate sector. Here are some highlights on Speak Your Mind.
In terms of liberalization, we have to first focus on unilateral liberalization, particularly the removal of para-tariffs. The Honourable Minister has already removed over 1,200 items yesterday, and he has assured us that most of the other para-tariffs will be removed within the next 2 to 3 years, of course, except for the revenue-sensitive items. And they will do so in consultation with the industries as well. We all know that currently Sri Lanka has been a very protective, restrictive trade regime in the region. So we are serious. This is seriously hurting our competitiveness in the international market. Our goods are too expensive. So what we are really doing is to liberalize so that our products can compete in the international market.
And likewise, I think Sri Lanka also must stop being a nanny state and move forward. But we are there. As a government, we have to give everyone a helping hand, and this budget is about helping the entrepreneurial spirit of our people. And this budget is all about young people. We have invested heavily this time on education, higher education, skills training, innovation. I would say the largest amount of money since independence, because we believe that is the right way to invest.
Challenges we have is really on the implementation side of things, especially budgets. Of course, always sound very promising and nice when it's delivered, but implementing these ideas sometimes are really not that successful. So that is why we are trying to overcome. I'm talking in general, as I said, about the implementation of the proposals itself. We will be starting, in fact we have just started the budget implementation unit at the Ministry of Finance, to be headed by Mr. Mano Tittawala and Mr. Deshaldi Mel, whose task will be to ensure that whatever I promised and said yesterday on the floor of the House will be implemented during the course of the year, and they will also be asked to release a report, a public report, which will also be published in the newspapers, about the monthly progress of the implementations.
Environment is a real concern for countries which are situated close to the equator, and we have already seen since 2014 the huge adverse impacts on the economy. These are not just economic, but these are adverse impacts all around. In the same year, 2017, we have had floods, and we have also had a drought affecting nearly 20 districts in the country. These are exogenous factors. Nobody could actually plan precisely for these unpredictable events, so some measures would be taken to mitigate the impacts of those events. And therefore, we want to make sure that as we go forward, that the whole economy will be built in an environmentally sensitive way. There was an emphasis on vehicles, but I think the statement is much more than vehicles, and I think we need to remember that, even though there was an emphasis on vehicles. By 2025, all government vehicles will be based on renewable energy, electric, whatever. Government's policy is always to be technology neutral. However, we are giving incentives at the moment for conversion into electric vehicles. We are doing some initial things like public transport, support the transport board in going electric. We are given concessions, as you know, in converting vehicles. Apart from government vehicles, we have set ourselves a target by 2040 we would completely converted out of fossil fuels. In doing this, working out the taxation on vehicles, we based it on engine capacity. The reason we did that was the leakage in the present system is unbelievably high. And therefore, that leakage means that the public is really being penalized, and therefore we need to reduce that leakage. This gave us a social justice issue, going by just based on engine size, in that more luxury vehicles would come much cheaper, and therefore we have balanced it by introducing a tax. Insurance will become important. As you know, Sri Lanka has a low penetration in insurance, whichever measures you take. And as you grow in your middle income status, it becomes important. But I make the point here that all schemes must become contributory, so that the issue people cover, one is the value of it, and also government takes some liabilities that it can support over the long run. We want to connect manufacturing into the export market. As you know, Sri Lanka's export structure is still large companies do most of the exports. Only about 5% of our exports are going out of small and medium companies. So we are going to take some practical steps, basically connecting small companies to the value chain. And here it's not just about money, it's about mentoring, it's about advice, it's about helping to connect. And as part of our liberalization, as you know, we have done away in one stroke with over 1,200 para-tariffs in the budget speech yesterday.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. You can look us up on Facebook by typing BizFirst Review 360. Good night and have a pleasant weekend.